If you've played enough horror games in your life, then you probably know that one of the most powerful ways they use to confuse you is deception. Sometimes, they can make you go through the whole story, waiting for a certain outcome you drew in your mind. But at the end, you stumble upon a completely different scenario. And at other times, they make you believe that the lie is actually the truth, and that reality is not actually real. Developers love to rely on more than just jump scares or monsters in order to scare you. That's why in today's video, I decided to talk about a few horror games that surprised us with the most unexpected plot twists and bizarre endings, making us feel kind of gullible for not noticing anything at an earlier stage of the story. But before I start, I want to make it clear that this video contains spoilers, so please keep that in mind before getting mad at me for revealing too much of the game's stories.
My name is Simon. I'm just an average guy. Nothing special about me. Like someone you don't notice. Someone nobody cares about. Someone left outside. More often than not, I'm alone. And anxiety and depression controls my life every day. Being lonely all the time is not an easy thing to deal with. It makes stuff happen in your mind. Stuff you're not supposed to be thinking or experiencing. You ask me why I'm wandering these streets, why I'm carrying a gun. I can't answer. I couldn't answer if I wanted to.
Cry of Fear is a survival horror game that was released in 2012 and has become one of the most popular horror titles of the past decade. The events of this game are quite messy, so I'm going to present them in a straightforward fashion so you can know everything as fast as possible. The story revolves around a young man named Simon Henriksen, who is a complicated character who suffers from multiple mental problems. Simon wakes up in a dark and dismal city in Sweden after being hit by a car while trying to help an injured man. As he tries to make his way home, he is attacked by deformed monsters. Simon fails to call the police, but receives a text from a man who needs help. Upon entering an apartment block, Simon discovers the man dead in his bathtub. The building becomes increasingly dilapidated and covered in blood, and Simon gets attacked by a monster with a chainsaw, leading to his passing out and vomiting. He wakes up near a mysterious and violent doctor who tells him that he cannot be trusted. As he explores the city, Simon faces various threats and eventually meets his childhood friend and love interest, Sophie, on a rooftop. He tries to admit his love to her, but she turns him down and falls off the roof, resulting in her death. During his journey home, Simon encounters a monster named Carcass and has to decide whether to confront it or run away. He is unable to enter a subway station due to a missing fuse and heads to a nearby college to find one. However, monsters attack him when he finds the fuse. He manages to escape to the subway station but runs into the doctor, who has just committed murder. The doctor chases Simon, but he is stopped by a door that needs 2 more fuses. Simon finds the fuses after navigating through a hallway, where he hears the doctor's encounter with a patient. He retrieves the fuses to open a gate for a train, but is chased by monsters through a maze. Simon escapes through a door that leads to a different hallway, and he faces another monster attack while getting on a train, which eventually crashes and derails, resulting in the loss of all his possessions. He narrowly survives the fall off a cliff and lands in a dark forest, where he stumbles upon an asylum. Inside the asylum, He encounters a doctor who orders him to hand over a new gun to enter a gated area. Simon has the option to comply or refuse, but the doctor ultimately betrays him and shoots him, causing a significant reduction in Simon's maximum health if he had given the gun. After a shootout, Simon ultimately defeats the doctor. By now, you're probably wondering where's the plot twist here and why I mentioned the occurrences in this consistent manner. Well, the twist is that all what you just heard never actually happened. To be specific, it happened only in Simon's head. Throughout the game, Simon has been experiencing disturbing visions and encountering terrifying creatures, which he believes are real. However, as the game progresses, it becomes apparent that he is suffering from severe mental disorders and has been experiencing vivid hallucinations. The monsters he has been fighting are actually figments of his own imagination, created by his deep-seated fears and anxieties. And by the way, vivid hallucinations are not a made-up thing that only exists in video games. It's actually a real neurological phenomenon that makes the person believe that he's seeing certain objects and people that don't actually exist, and it usually happens to individuals who experience traumas or tragic events that change their lives.
You have to do something more than that. I recommend that you try a new modern treatment called cognitive therapy.
What's that?
Well, it's a set of exercises you do, a way to forget the past, all the bad memories and anxiety you have.
They found the body of Rose, the woman who went missing last Monday. Forensics located her camera near a well, in which her lifeless body was also found. Her husband, the alleged killer, has already been arrested.
I need you to make contact with my mom.
Evil Inside is a psychological horror game that was heavily inspired by PT. Some people even say it's a weak replica that's trying hard to emulate PT in every way possible. But I personally stand in the middle. I do believe that it's a clone, but I don't see it as a bad game at all when it comes to providing an unsettling experience and spooky atmosphere. Despite being relatively short with only 80 minutes of gameplay, it actually made me stress to complete it as fast as I could because the tension was getting higher and higher as I progressed. With that being said, let's now focus on the purpose of this video, which is the plot. The story of Evil Inside is quite simple. A woman was murdered in the house, and her husband was arrested and accused of her death. You play as their son Mark, who is desperate to discover what really happened and know if his father is actually the killer, or if there's a hidden side that the police didn't see. To achieve this, Mark decides to contact his friend, who has a reputation for sorcery and dealing with supernatural phenomena, so he can help him summon the spirit of his mom and learn the truth from her.
Hello?
Hi, Mark. It's been a long time since what happened to your mother. That happened many months ago. Are you better?
Yeah, sorry. Listen, are you in contact with the afterlife?
Yes. Tell me what you need.
I need you to make contact with my mom.
Once you assume the role of Mark, you'll find yourself going through the same hallways over and over again, but you'll constantly feel that something changes or shows up out of nowhere. In one of the instances, you'll see a train toy moving and operating, which may refer to Mark's childhood. In other instances, you'll hear the phone ringing, and when you answer, you'll hear a weird sound of breathing that's supposedly coming from your mom. One of the most powerful aspects of the experience are the jump scares. They're very strong and effective, but they also feel random and unnecessary. The most memorable one is definitely the baby jump scare, which represents the soul of your little brother, who was left out in his bed. However, the constant walking through the hallways is not meaningless, because your main mission in this game is to gather the pieces of the Ouija board, which you will use to summon your mother's soul. The pieces can be found in the basement, and you'll find a different one with each walkthrough. But at the same time, you'll notice that the atmosphere also escalates and gets more dark and eerie.
Only my mom knows that I'm scared of circuses. Why is she doing it?
To keep it short, after multiple cycles inside the house and countless inexplicable events taking place, including a demonic appearance of your mom's ghost, you'll finally discover what really happened and who's the actual killer who murdered the mother. It turned out that your father was innocent all along, and the suspect you've been looking for all this time was actually no one other than you. The enigmatic person about whom Mark was curious to know his identity was himself. He's the one who killed his mother, and apparently he lost memory of that or was trying to make himself believe that it didn't happen in the first place. The game doesn't clearly explain how and why he's the killer, but implies the idea that his mom's spirit is actually very angry at him and is seeking revenge.
Do you remember this place? Don't you remember what really happened? Don't try to hide the truth. You killed me. Your father is serving your sentence. But you will serve my sentence.
Hey, it's, I didn't think you'd call.
Yeah, well, how's the search going?
This is no longer just a missing person case, Jess.
You don't sound like yourself. You okay?
No, it's nothing.
Bullet, seek.
Just talk to me, please.
You heard the legend, right? About the witch?
Alice, you sure you're doing fine?
Jess, I swear, there's something really messed up going on in these woods.
Calm down. What did you see?
It's hard to explain. Memories? Bad memories.
In 2019, Bloober Team released Blair Witch, a horror video game in which players assume the role of former police officer named Ellis. He is on a mission to locate a missing boy named Peter Shannon in the same area where the Blair Witch Project movie took place. Along the way, Ellis encounters strange visions and flashbacks of his past, including his time in the military and his failed marriage, which start to blend with reality, causing confusion for both Ellis and the player. The game's horror is mainly psychological, with the forest and Ellis's past experiences playing tricks on his mind. As the game progresses, the forest becomes more distorted and surreal, and Ellis's mental state starts to deteriorate. There are also supernatural aspects that include the appearance of the Blair Witch, and it will become more clear when Ellis discovers several landmarks and items in the forest that are connected to the Blair Witch legend, including abandoned campsites, stick figures, and piles of stones. With every step in the woods, Ellis becomes increasingly preoccupied and obsessed with finding Peter, to the extent that he puts himself and his dog Bullet in danger. As the secrets of the story start to get clearer, you'll find out that the person behind the boy's disappearance is a scary-looking man named Carver, and towards the end of the game, a huge plot twist occurs. It turns out that Carver is actually Ellis himself, and Ellis discovers that he is the reason for the missing boy's disappearance. Carver is the future version of Ellis Lynch, who has been influenced by the Blair Witch and suffers from PTSD due to his military and police careers. He did horrible things in the past, including killing a woman in the Gulf War to save himself and shooting an unarmed teenager in Burkittsville Village. Carver now follows the witch's orders, kills even his former friends, and kidnaps children to draw his past self towards him.
No, like I can't take it anymore! Make it stop!
Additionally, he has a strange obsession with skinning animals and people and enjoys creating the witch's symbols. Carver wants Ellis to become like him, and his ultimate goal is to kill him and finally find peace. There are two endings you can reach. In the good ending, Ellis will urge Carver to act like a man, but then he will get killed by Carver, and subsequently, Carver will disappear and cease to exist. In the bad ending, Ellis will kill Carver and take on his identity, thereby becoming Carver himself. This act will occur while Ellis is confined to a forest, and it will allow the cycle to continue once again. But it is worth noting that when playing the game for the first time, it is more probable that you will end up with the bad ending. This is due to the game's design, which intends to deceive and lead you to failure through the witch's manipulation throughout the gameplay.
How did I get here?
It's my sincerest belief that we can go on living. It really makes you think about what it means to be human.
I mean, if we are able to save even just a small piece of ourselves, why wouldn't we do that?
My name is Simon. Do you know anything about this place?
Oh, you knew. Look, I'm obviously hurt. Blacked out pretty bad. Can't remember how I got here.
What do you remember?
Soma is a sci-fi horror game developed and published by Frictional Games, the same developers behind Amnesia. Simon Jarrett, the protagonist of the game, had been involved in a car accident that caused the death of his friend and co-passenger, Ashley Hall. Although Simon survived the crash, he suffered from a serious brain injury that permanently affected him. Due to the long-term consequences of the accident, Simon consents to undergo an innovative brain scanning procedure as a medical experiment. However, something goes wrong during the scan, and Simon wakes up in the facility, not knowing how he got there. He soon discovers that the world has been devastated by a mysterious event, and the facility is overrun by hostile machines and strange mutated creatures. As Simon navigates the dangerous environment, he discovers that the research facility was conducting experiments on a new technology called the ARK. The ARK is a virtual reality simulation that can house human consciousness and memories, effectively allowing people to live indefinitely. The goal of the research was to create a backup of human consciousness in the event of a global catastrophe. However, the experiments went horribly wrong, and the ARK became corrupted, causing the creatures and machines to go rogue. Simon encounters a variety of terrifying monsters and faces numerous challenges, including puzzles and stealth sequences, as he tries to uncover the truth about what happened and find a way out. Throughout the game, he is forced to grapple with the nature of consciousness, humanity, and identity. He must confront the ethical implications of advanced technology and decide what it means to be truly alive. After experiencing all these incidents and going through the crazy tests of the game's story, you'll discover a surprising twist at the end. You'll realize that Simon is not actually human. He is just a digital copy of his consciousness that was scanned and uploaded to the ARK. To sum it up for you, The Simon that the player has been controlling is a virtual clone of the real Simon, who died in the brain scan at the beginning of the game. You heard it right. Everything you encountered, whether it was weird creatures or stressful situations, was all part of a digital consciousness that was replicated from Simon's brain before his death. So basically, the guy you were trying to help survive the collapsed world was already a dead man all the time.
You idiot! I didn't lie! I can't be responsible for your goddamn ignorance!
Catherine? Please don't leave me alone. Catherine? Catherine?
When the police won't help you and the priests don't believe you, you call on Paul Prospero. You call on me. I'd worked dozens of cases, hundreds. This would be my last one.
You can feel it, right? Something coming from the Vandergriff house.
Ethan disturbed the sleeper. He must be punished.
You're crazy. You've all gone crazy.
Where's my mother? Why are you standing in the sleeper's way?
Get off of him! He's your brother! Get off of him!
I featured this game not so long ago in one of my previous videos about amazing horror games that didn't get enough attention. But I didn't have the chance to dive deep into the story, and gladly this video will be a good opportunity to do that.
Our boy. Chad is putting our boy in that crypt.
And bricking him up, giving him to the sleeper forever.
The Vanishing of Ethan Carter is a horror adventure game that was released in 2014 and focuses on storytelling and exploration to reward you with a satisfying and emotional ending to your journey. The story is about Paul Prospero, a paranormal investigator who receives a letter from a young fan named Ethan Carter in 1973. The letter inspires him to travel to Red Creek Valley, Wisconsin, which is Ethan's hometown. When Prospero arrives, he discovers that Ethan is missing and starts experiencing eerie paranormal activity. But not only that, the small mining village also has evidence of recent violent incidents that have no clear context or explanation. From this point, you'll find yourself embarking on a complicated journey of exploration to discover what really happened. And as a player, you'll feel that you're literally curious to know the truth just as much as the protagonist Paul himself. You will start gathering clues everywhere and analyzing every sign you get your eyes on, because you're actually interested in reaching a salient conclusion to your curiosity. The investigation of Prospero eventually leads him to uncover the dark secret of the Carter family, which obviously has a long history of not getting along. It turned out that Ethan had used witchcraft to unleash a malevolent spirit known as the Sleeper, putting their lives in danger. In an attempt to appease the Sleeper, Ethan's uncle Chad and mother Missy tried to sacrifice him, but Ethan managed to escape with the help of his father Dale. This led to a series of unfortunate events where Missy killed Chad, and Dale killed Missy in order to avoid becoming a vessel for the Sleeper. Then Ethan's older brother became a vessel for the Sleeper and turned on Ethan, which ultimately led to his death at the hands of his grandfather Ed.
Honey, I wish there was another way. Travis, tell me where Ethan is, now.
I'm giving the Sleeper what he wants, what all of us want. Look, old man, you need to go home.
I know that things sound messy, but please try to keep up with me here so you can understand what's going on. After this peculiar cycle of violence between the members of the family, Ethan and his grandfather successfully reach the location of the demonic entity residing in the old Vandergriff mansion, despite losing many family members along the way. Their goal is to eliminate the entity, but things won't go as simply as they thought, because they will encounter a last surviving relative who will trap Ethan inside the entity's room which will make him panic and set the place on fire. As the fire rages, Ethan's grandfather, who is outside, apologizes and assures him it's for the greater good of the sleeper. Both Ethan and his grandfather ultimately burn to death in a heartbreaking end to their story, but the tale is not yet finished. Once you have completed the story sequences as Prospero and explored the map, you will encounter a strange mural. This mural reveals something you would never expect. It uncovers that the events of the story, including the character of Prospero, were all invented by Ethan. Everything you've been through in the game, whether it's a place, a character, or a clue, were all creations of Ethan's mind and thoughts. Nothing was real, and every event you encountered didn't actually happen at any time. It turned out that 12-year-old Ethan created an imaginary sanctuary to escape his abusive family, and that the supernatural occurrences in the town were just a product of his imagination. And the hidden room where Ethan sought refuge was located in the Vandergrift mansion where his family was taking shelter.
What's wrong with your kid? Painting on walls, writing his stories. I mean, what the fuck?
Ethan! For God's sake, you missed dinner.
The Adventures of Paul Prospero, Supernatural Detective. Where do you get this stuff?
However, the fire actually happened in real life. One evening at dinner, Ethan arrives late and is mocked by his family for his tales of a psychic detective named Paul Prospero. During the commotion, Ethan's mother, Missy, accidentally sets the place on fire with her lantern. While everyone scatters outside, Ethan runs to his secret room in the house, but unfortunately, the fire engulfs the structure, and he finds himself trapped. In a moment of panic, he escapes to a world within his mind. As the smoke filled the room, the fictional character Prospero comforted Ethan, urging him to let go and move on to a new story. Meanwhile, Ethan's real family tries to put out the fire. Eventually, Ethan succumbs to the carbon monoxide and passes out, while his family desperately tries to rescue him. Sadly, Ethan died in that fire, with his soul gradually disappearing in the air. To be clear, his death shouldn't come as a shocking surprise to you if you paid attention throughout the game, because many hints actually seem to indicate this possibility during your search. But the surprising part is that your whole investigation in the first place didn't really happen in real life at all, and you were just playing a character that only existed in Ethan's mind.
I wrote about you, but I don't know if I created you.
Made me real.
I can't go yet. I have to finish my story about you. I wrote stories about everyone.
I know you did. But my story's done. And it's a fine story.
I can let go?
You can let go.
What happens then?
Another story, kid. What else?
Silent Hill 2 was released in 2001 and is probably one of the most popular horror games of all time. The game follows the story of James Sunderland, a man who receives a letter from his dead wife Mary, asking him to meet her in the town of Silent Hill. Confused and desperate to see his wife again, James travels to Silent Hill, only to find the town shrouded in fog and filled with monsters. As James explores the town, he encounters a variety of strange and unsettling characters, including Angela Orozco, a young woman haunted by memories of abuse and trauma, Eddie Dombrowski, a disturbed and violent man who appears to have committed murder. And then there's Laura, a young girl who claims to know Mary and insists that she is still alive. As he delves deeper into the mysteries of Silent Hill, James discovers that the town is not what it seems. He is haunted by visions of Mary, who seems to be both alive and dead at the same time, and is pursued by grotesque monsters that seem to represent his own inner demons. As he unravels the secrets of Silent Hill, James is forced to confront his own guilt and come to terms with the role he played in his wife's death. It is not clear if James is a horrible evil person, or just a man whose life went completely wrong. But it's obvious at the end that he actually killed his wife, and he admits it himself, which explains why he couldn't reach self-forgiveness and saw himself as nothing other than a bad husband who deserved punishment.
Mary's gone. She's dead.
Liar, that's a lie!
No, that's not true.
She died because she was sick?
No. I killed her.
You killer! Why'd you do it? I hate you! I want her back! Give her back to me! I knew...
Jill, come on! Chris, this way! Make for that mansion!
Just like Silent Hill, Resident Evil is also one of the most popular horror games of the last 2 decades, or basically ever if we're being accurate. So most of you are probably familiar with its plot, but I'm going to give you a small recap anyway, so you can understand the twist. The story revolves around Alpha Team, which is a group of highly trained members from the Raccoon City Police Department, who find themselves assigned to investigate a series of unusual murders that happened in the city, and also to find their missing colleagues. The main 4 members are Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, Albert Wesker, and Barry Burton, with Wesker as the leader. On the other side, the most memorable entity of the whole franchise is definitely the Umbrella Corporation, which is the sinister company that conducts unethical biological experiments that resulted in creating the virus that turns humans into brainless walking monsters. To save time and avoid going into too many details, I'm going to tell you the twist. To do that, we need to go back and remember the team of special agents who were assigned to investigate what's going on. And by special agents, we mean the good guys, of course. Well, that might apply to Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, and Barry Burton. But the twist is that we have an imposter in the group, and that person is none other than Albert Wesker, who is literally the most trusted and respected member of the team. It is later revealed that he is actually a double agent working for the Umbrella Corporation, the company responsible for the T-virus outbreak that caused the zombie apocalypse in Raccoon City. Wesker's true allegiance and motives are not fully revealed until later games in the series, where he becomes a major antagonist. He is known for his cool and collected demeanor, as well as his exceptional physical abilities, which were enhanced by exposure to the T-virus. He is often depicted as the mastermind behind various plots and schemes, and is a formidable foe for the series' protagonists, including Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield.
This is Wesker.
We last met at the Spencer estate, wasn't it? Well, isn't this one big...
Don't let the casual visuals trick you and make you underestimate this title. This game is actually one of the most interesting puzzle-oriented horror games you can get your hands on. The protagonist in The Witch's House is a young girl named Viola, who wakes up in the middle of a forest and discovers that roses have blocked her only way out. She is left with only the option of entering a strange house nearby in search of a way to escape. Viola is accompanied by a black cat and must survive the magical and perilous house, which is possessed by the spirit of a witch. During her stay, Viola experiences bizarre happenings in the shape-shifting house and comes across diary entries written by the current resident, which is a witch girl named Ellen, revealing her past and how she killed her parents due to their mistreatment. To advance further into the house and escape the forest, Viola must solve various puzzles and unlock doors and other sections. Depending on her actions, there are two possible endings for Viola if she manages to leave the house. Both endings are basically the same, and in both of them, you'll find out that Viola and Ellen swapped bodies before the events of the tale. In the story, Ellen, who is Viola in Ellen's body, tries to trap Viola, who is Ellen, inside her own home to regain her body, as Ellen wanted to cure herself of a fatal ailment. In both endings, Viola's father comes to rescue his daughter without realizing the switch and shoots Ellen to protect her, resulting in Ellen's death of despair, since her father fails to recognize her. The twist is so confusing, but the main idea here is that Viola was the witch she was escaping from all the time. The witch is actually a manifestation of her own guilt and trauma, because she caused the deaths of her pet cat, as well as her own parents. And by the way, when I say Viola, I actually mean Ellen. Anyway, you get the point. As usual, the video got longer than expected, but you've got to forgive me this time because you all know that explaining the stories of games takes time and can't be summarized more than this. I tried hard to make the plot sound as simple as possible so you could understand the twists clearly. Anyway, if you enjoy this kind of video about story explanations and want to see similar stuff in the future, then make sure to give me some recommendations in the comments below. Until next time, stay safe and be prepared for what's coming.